The Mac and Pete Project.
All right. Well, I guess this episode called The Watcher, or just Watcher, I think. It's weird. Sometimes they include an article or not in their titles, The Stargazer, but Watcher, not to be confused with Uatu from the Marvel Universe.
I am the Watcher. I am your guide through these vast new realities.
No big hint here, no.
Yeah, who swears an oath to never interfere, but that's what he's best at doing.
I have broken my sacred vow to only observe, so that I may give you this one chance.
Well, when you're good at something, why change?
So, I think a good way to start off the discussion is like what we've been doing. It's like, what was good about this episode? What was good?
I like the cameo from the guy from Star Trek 4.
Okay, so I guess he just lives in California and takes the bus, and no matter what city he lives in now.
And
he went from San Francisco, and now he's in LA.
Excuse me. They dumped on us the Sahans. The only choice we're given is how many megatons. Excuse me. Do you mind stopping that damn noise?
Yeah, okay, fine. I just like that song.
This is something happened to the timeline because, of course, as we the Federation didn't exist for Kirk to go back in time.
Oh yeah, so I guess there are no whales. Yeah, or so George and Gracie are still at the
George and Gracie are still where they're supposed to be.
No, they're not. They were taken out to sea. They got hit by the whalers.
That's correct. George and Gracie are dead. And here's the other thing. So Pete, maybe we need to give everybody some context.
Okay.
So Pete might have voiced some concerns about this episode to, I forget, did you Twitter something, or I just know you shared something with me?
I did tweet to Alex Kurtzman, and and I did leave a comment on the Ready Room for Will Wheaton, but
who was the one that commented about Broken Arrow? Who said that the events of
Time
that
Zero. That was one of the 20 executive producers of the show. So I don't know if you noticed there's like 20 of them.
I did, but here's the problem I have with his or hers or binary's response. As I was just getting at, how can this guy who's on the bus have such a nervous reaction to somebody asking him to turn off the same song that was playing in Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, which was 1983, 84? 86, okay. So in the mid-'80s, the same song, and he's apparently still listening. He really likes the oldies, listening to the same song, and when somebody replies to this, hey, can you turn that noise down? Nervous and then he grabs his neck.
Right.
Now, just so you know, yes, I know that was a nod, but here's the problem. If you're laying out this temporal ideology of Guinan has now, maybe in this timeline, because Starfleet has yet to exist or interfere with the past.
Right. So basically they're under the assumption that Time Zero never happened.
I do so much traveling. What ship would that be?
The Enterprise.
Is that a clipper ship?
It is a starship.
Starship? What registry would that be?
Of course.
And that we never got to meet Mark Twain.
So that never happened.
I just love that actor.
Well, I'm not so impressed with this future, this huge starship.
That never happened. Kirk never went back to the 1930s, and Edith Keeler never happened. They never time warped.
Maybe still in this timeline, the Confederation still came under attack by a giant space sausage, and General Kirk went back in time to go get the whales. Maybe Star Trek 4 still happened, but it was much more violent.
Okay, just so you know, Pete, I think we're reaching, but that is a plausible yet interesting way to look at it. Yes,
because I think it's funny because when Guinan didn't recognize Picard, I was so pissed. I was like, what is this? We're ignoring Time Zero, and then after talking to you for a little bit, I'm like, okay. So the timeline got undone, so none of this ever happened. And now you're pointing out, just for the sake of a pointless cameo, it throws their logic out the window. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because
well, here's the thing: if you're using TNG as your keystone, you can't, because the keystone of Star Trek starts at Christopher Pike's pilot episode that was never aired, because it was referenced in Menagerie.
Yeah,
that is the keystone of the canon universe. So everything from that point has to coincide. So if you're saying that you've gone to a point in time where any time travel to interfere with that said past hasn't happened, then you can't make any cameos like that, no matter how fun that they were. I loved it. I did. But it doesn't make sense, because if that was the case, Guinan should have shown up the same way that she did. Because also, in this timeline, you're assuming that Guinan might not have aged the same way that she did. Because Guinan from TNG looked the same way from Guinan in 1880 or 1850.
Yeah, and she should have still had like a shock, like in yesterday's Enterprise, of like something's wrong with the timeline, and she recognizes Picard but doesn't know why. They should have done it that way.
And she didn't get physically ill. And I know that they're trying to do this idea that, back then she controls her aging. Controlling your aging is one thing. Being able to go from old to young to old is a whole different thing. You know what I mean? Because in TNG, you've shown her when you went back in time. Remember the episode when the Rascals episode?
Yeah.
You've shown Guinan as a child.
So I think all this could have been avoided if we didn't have that stupid line in the first episode of "I control how I age." We could just hand wave the audience and be like, "Hey, these are our technical limitations. We don't have access to 30-year-old Guinan, or Whoopi Goldberg. We got to get another actress. We're not going to do the stupid Disney thing and DH her,
And I would have been fine with that.
Exactly.
But don't.
And it's the same thing as like giving the Klingons a makeover. It's like, you don't have to go out of the way and explain some stupid genophage or disease. You can just say, this is obviously a production issue, because it's like they didn't have the budget to do it.
And we could have reconciled that.
Yes.
You don't have to. Everything doesn't have to jive. It's okay. Right. It doesn't have to go together.
Those things are permissible. Yeah.
Continuity-wise, when you go to the effort to explain it, then it confuses everything even more, and it's ridiculous.
So I think what I want to say is the best part of the 2024 plot line so far for me has been Rios and the doctor at the hospital.
Yes.
I think that's the best storyline at the moment, because right now it's like Seven and Raffi are just. I think they're playing Grand Theft Auto.
I assume that. I did.
It's like, it's insane. if Rios dies in 2024, I'm totally blaming Raffi because she
without
pushed
a doubt.
everyone, because they have gained absolutely nothing by heading out early because
Not at all.
the information from the Borg Queen. If they would just spent the night at Chateau Picard, calculate their plan, and realize, hey, we have a time machine. If we miss the deadline, we'll just go around the sun again. So yeah, if they would have totally just waited a day, they could have the whole entire group together. They don't have to worry about the communicators not working since they're around the planet from each other and not like within relative close distance like they were in Star Trek 4, which I think is kind of nice, paying attention to some things. It's like, okay, the old-fashioned communicators still worked in San Francisco for them because they were really close to each other and they didn't need communication relays. Now that the ship crashed in France and they're all in Los Angeles, yeah, I can see it a hard time talking to each other.
And they could have had this cool little, camping scene like in Star Trek 5 inside the chateau, and they could have sung, a couple French songs.
Do
some
character development?
Yes! What a novel concept.
You know what we need here is a climbing song.
What we need is a climbing song.
Ferra Jacques, Ferra Jacques.
Dormez-vous,
dormez-vous, sonnez les matines, sonnez les matines, ding ding dong, ding ding dong.
Raffi's my least favorite character.
Raffi.
Okay, just so we don't get confused, and Michelle Hurd, the actress, she's great. The character is horrible. So I just want to make that distinction right
I don't want to make it seem like the actress is great. She's performing it but the character in where she is ridiculous. It doesn't go with the Star Trek ideology of what humanity is at this point in our development. It's just not. And she's a fish out of water. It's hard to empathize with her.
Yeah, on the opposite of that coin, I like Seven is actually being more level-headed this season. And just spending some time on Instagram this week, I was on Jerry Ryan's Facebook page or whatever, and just seeing people commenting about the Raffi Seven relationship, saying it's the most incredible thing that's on television or whatever. And it's like, it's slowly getting better, but I mean, really, it's just, it's still, it feels, how do I want to put it? Not authentic, because it's like we haven't got, because, and it might only be like we're getting more scenes with them together, but it's just like in the back of my head, it's just the end of season 1, they were just together magically. It just appeared. Yeah. So I don't know if that's always just going to be in the back of the head bothering me.
I think, as I said, if season 1 didn't happen, we would have different concerns. A lot of what's going on is everything seems not organic. It doesn't seem like it has been reached in a way that your emotions would evolve towards a romantic entanglement. They don't seem as if they had the building blocks to have a romance. It was just like, hey, you're feeling bad. Let's hold hands. Oh, we're romance. Yeah. And that's the problem.
And it's that relationship, and then Raffi's relationship with Elnor, because it's like we only have like that one line in the first episode of where she like mentored him through the academy, and because he's like, oh, absolute candor, and
that boy's absolute candor can get his ass kicked. So I'm protective of him.
Frankly, I find it very pleasing.
All officers.
And I'm like, okay, you know what would have been cool is having an episode of them at the academy doing stuff, But it's like, and yes, we're back to this original problem. We don't have 26 episodes. We only have time to do one movie dragged over the course of 10 hours.
And I think that you're right. I think that, and if they're going to do this in the future for Trek, they have to take a slice from the Deep Space Nine playbook.
Yeah.
They need to have one large overarching story and dissect 3 segmented stories with character development as a backstory.
And I didn't watch it, but I think that's what Discovery Season 2 tried to do with the Red Angels.
There was elements of that. Season 3 was a little bit more peppered with it. But the problem I have with Discovery is I don't care about any of the characters, because when they get interesting, they either get killed off or they get sent to another planet or another ship or to Starfleet Academy or Starfleet headquarters, whatever. But
we won't dwell on this. We're talking about Picard.
Well, because I don't want to spend 85 hours complaining about the worst Star Trek show. And I'm sorry, the worst show ever.
Where's Picard?
Here's the difference between Discovery and Picard. Patrick Stewart's at least in it. Jerry Ryan's in it. It has like 2 points. So if you started out at negative 85, you're at least at negative 83 at this point.
Okay.
Where Discovery had Michelle Yeoh, which is the only good thing it had going for it. And then what was the best thing to do? Let's have the Klingons eat her. Oh, wait, we got rid of our most popular character. What do? Let's turn the whole thing into a mirror universe thing. Mystery box. Okay, I have my Pete moment for the day.
Yeah. But yeah, it feels funny just trying to talk about this episode, and it's like you can summarize it in less than 5 minutes, because it's like Picard got the data from the Borg Queen from Agnes. He goes to 10 forward, which I still
There's a good one, Pete.
think is I hate it so much. It's like, okay, she never met Picard before. She's never seen the Enterprise. Why would her bar in 2024 be called 10 forward? I can understand in 2400 that she's like, okay, this is cute. This is where I spend a lot of time. Enterprise D has been destroyed. I'm going to make a 10 forward bar on Earth. And
yes,
I know it's not called 10 forward. The address is 10 forward street or whatever. And it's like, but still, are we going to say that numerology exists in Star Trek now?
So that's a huge problem for me. Okay, it's okay to have a nod to the fans. It's great. I love it. Here's the problem: when the nod does not make any sense within the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Because you designed a ship where the deck 10, the forward most part of the ship, is where the lounge is.
And it's
and
like,
now
I know, and it didn't even say on the doors of the Enterprise that this is 10 forward.
No, it was just
a part of the ship. Yeah, and
part of the ship. So that would be like, I don't even know what to compare this to. It is so preposterous that I can't even make a comparison to it. It would be like today we have a cell phone called the Samsung S22 or S20, and then all of a sudden we went back in time in 18 and we're calling the first telegraph machine the Galaxy S22. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
A lot of this episode has to do with the temporal mechanics of the story.
And I think it's because of all the small things that I just slowly started hating the episode. When, I was just rewatching part of it this morning, and it's like, okay, if I take those temporal inconsistencies in or out or whatever, I actually do like the scene with Guinan and Picard. It's a good scene.
I do as well.
And then she doesn't react until he actually drops his name of saying, I'm Jean-Luc Picard. And she still doesn't know what that means, but she knows that the Watcher knows that means something important.
My name is Jean-Luc Picard.
So she takes him to go see the Watcher, which uses some alien thing to communicate take over people's bodies to make sure he's not being followed, and we're taken to. We basically see a humanoid that looks like Laris. She looks human and not a Romulan. And he even calls her Laris, and they go into a gray rectangle thing that disappears. Is that right?
Yep.
And I was just immediately thinking about the glowing orange thing from Loki, those little doors, TVA. But so it's like, now is this going to be this connected to the Laris that he knows, or is this just entity assuming a face that he would feel comfortable with? You know,
Could be. I think the most interesting part about this episode was the end with Q.
Right, where he's, which was weird. He's just sitting in a cafe, like watching someone read a novel.
People are gonna die. And now your fear, your doubt, is the loudest voice in your head.
Did you catch what the novel said?
No, what was it?
It was a Dixon Hill novel.
Oh, okay. Which
So
Agnes did call him Dixon Hill earlier in the episode.
Agnes, I think that your marvelous mind is trying to tell us something.
Look at you, Dixon Hill.
Correct. Just wasn't that the character that he played on the holodeck when he went on leave?
Yeah, but it was based on the 20th century or 19th century books. No,
Correct. So she was reading a book on the detectives.
Okay. And then it seems like Q has lost his powers again.
That's unexpected. And most unfortunate.
If I could compare it to anything, I think they're trying to make it seem like he's old and impotent. Where he's got, it's just, maybe that's the evolution of a Q. We don't know yet. Or there's been so much time, maybe he's connected to the time-space continuum to a point where if any shenanigans happens, he loses cohesion. There's actually a lot of interesting things you can do with Q. But unfortunately, one thing I hate about time travel in film and in television, because it is such a theoretical thing and it makes your mind go, just like if you've gone back in time and something has happened to where things in the future that influence the past can have happened because the future hasn't happened because of the past. You're doing one of these numbers. Like I told you, when you were telling me, I was like, oh, you're going Doc Brown on me here. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's like you're either doing a type 1 or type 2 time travel, and predestined paradoxes. Do those count? So it's
correct.
Like, I've already done like the blackboard in my head of Doc Brown's for Picard.
We shoot off here.
But reality for everyone else.
On a scale from 1 to 10, this episode was a solid 3.25.
Yeah,
because of a cameo that makes no sense.
Yeah. So, I guess we got 6 more of these to go.
I hope that this was the worst one, and it was just a bump in the road as opposed to a downtrend.
I mean, if we're comparing it to last season, we know what this creative team is capable
I
of.
don't want to sacrifice another 6 hours of my existence for this.
So maybe Picard's mother isn't the Borg Queen. Maybe it's going to be Agnes.
Could be.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see if they.
And we've yet to see Brent Spiner, so.
Yeah, I think that's going to be next week's episode. So, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see you.
That's all we got.
Yeah, sorry. We probably should have taken the Mandalorian route and do a couple at a time. But we're just gonna leave it there. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See you next week. Bye.